Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining our masterclass today. My name is Praveen, and I will be your host and presenter for today's session. Before we start, I just want to make sure that everything is okay with the setup. In case you have any difficulties with the audio or viewing my shared screen, right, you should be able to see my slide deck that lists the schedule of our masterclass. In case you have any glitches with the audio or with the shared screen, kindly update in the chat panel of the GoToWebinar, and I will try to resolve the problem as soon as possible. I just want to pause for 10-15 seconds. We have more people joining in as I speak. Just want to make sure everything is okay with the setup so that we can get that out of the way. We can really get going with today's session. Once again, my name is Praveen. I work as a product consultant here at ManageEngine, and it's been like 9 years with ManageEngine. And so the presentation we got for you is connecting securely to devices in remote isolated networks. And the objective is to learn how to enable secure communication between isolated networks without removing firewall protections for effective credential management. The scenario is going to be for an organization that maintains multiple subnetworks or DMZs as a part of its IT infrastructure. Centralizing credential management for those endpoints in those isolated networks and ensuring connectivity between the subnetworks is a major challenge, right? So we will discuss in detail on how to get rid of those challenges by making use of ManageEngine Password Manager Pro. Um, this is what we got planned for you today. I think the session might go for 25 to 30 minutes, followed by a question and answer session. So, any questions you get during the course of the webinar, please raise them in the chat panel and I will answer them towards the end of the session. In today's session, I would like to start it by discussing about one of the latest breaches which happened by the cyber security company Imperva on August 2019, and they disclosed a data breach that impacts certain customers of its cloud web application firewall WAF product called Imperva INCAPSULA, right? So what happened or what happened with this breach? Okay, an unauthorized use of an administrative API credential in one of the production AWS accounts led to exposure of the database snapshot containing emails, hashed and salted passwords, right? So this is what has happened. So some API credential is being taken from the AWS instance, okay, on their production AWS instance. I mean, a database snapshot of it, right? And that snapshot contained the sensitive information like email, hashed and salted passwords, right? So that is what happened. And how it happened? So in 2017, the company Imperva was adopting to cloud technologies, and they were planning to migrate to AWS to scale their user database. So that's when the AWS RDS was in picture. So they were planning to migrate their complete user database to AWS RDS. And what they did was when they planned to move to the AWS RTS, they were doing an evaluation process, as we all do. They were also doing an evaluation of AWS RTS to check whether it suits their requirements, and that's exactly when this information was exposed. So what they did was they created a database snapshot testing, and then internal instance that was created was accessible from the outside world, and it contained the AWS API credentials, as I mentioned you earlier. So that instance was compromised and all the API credentials was stolen, and with the use to access of the snapshot, right? So they got the snapshot of the AWS instance, and on the evaluation during the evaluation period, and they got all those information of Imperva in it. All right. So, what are the corrective actions or measures which has been taken by them? So, first, they ensured they have implemented, tighter access controls, which means a mechanism where administrator can grant password access to a user or for a specific period of time, right? So that's one thing. And the next one is the security best practice, which we are recommending throughout these masterclass series, is that make sure all the sensitive credentials are being properly reset, and ensure they have been the access has been provided only to the limited people, right? Whoever needs access, only they should be having over it. So that is the second security measure which has been taken by them. And also deploying all the critical resources which they have behind the firewall. So they have put in a firewall in place to ensure that all the resources which had the sensitive information are behind the firewall, so it's been protected by a firewall. So this is the scenario of Imperva. All right, and now let's see. We know what are the corrective actions to be taken, right? However, we also need to know what are the challenges we will face if we need to go ahead with these corrective actions. Of course, see, firewall restrictions, because if you put a critical resource behind the firewall, or if you put them in a demilitarized zone, we cannot have direct access, or because the firewall ports will be completely blocked, right? So we cannot, again, since they are being exposed, we cannot even open the firewall ports over there. So that's the first challenge. However, what's our recommendation? Our recommendation is to completely reset the passwords. So if you want to reset the passwords for the servers which are behind the firewall, how can we go about it? So that's the first point. Next, all these devices which are connected to a network for a certain period, okay, they automatically get disconnected after that specified time, right? So, for example, the server access will be available only for 30 minutes, after which they has to be disconnected, right? And that is first challenge. And once again, you will also have timeout values which has been specified on the critical resources. So if they are idle for like 15 minutes or 30 minutes, you will get them automatically disconnected from the network. So that is one challenge, right? So how do we go about making use of that, right? And the next one is going to be we I mean we might have in case of few strategy sites, right, or few secured sites, you will not allow direct access to that particular site. So you might have to connect to a intermediate ops. For example, let me take this scenario. Let's say you have a site which is in one of the European data centers. Let's take an example of Belgium. Okay, so because European nations, we believe that they have the strong security in place. Okay, so you have one of your critical sites in Belgium, and your user base is in APAC region, say India or Singapore. Okay, so however, before connecting, from the APAC region, you will not be able to directly access the site which is in the European center, right? So you have to either connect to an intermediate hop. So only after connecting to the intermediate hop, you will be able to connect to the European center. Okay, so let's say the intermediate hop is somewhere in once again in Europe nation like London. Okay, so what you have to do is from your APAC, location, you have to connect to a hop in London, and only then you will be able to connect to your critical site, which is going to be in the European country like Belgium, as I said you. Okay, so in this case, they have to, your users who make use of those mission critical resources, right? They have to get the credentials of each and every at the hop first, and they have to connect to the target machine. So they have to remember the credentials, and once again connecting to those machines, it's going to be a real difficult task. Okay, so now these are the challenges. Okay, hope I made the challenges clear for you guys. And now let's see how or what are the solutions we have to overcome these challenges in Password Manager Pro. First is going to be what can we do? So we as I told you, we don't have direct access to the target machines, right? Because they are behind the firewall or in DMZ zone. So in this case, we need to have a agent, okay, in such a way that, so agent is a solution basically for this, right? So where you can deploy a agent on the servers in the behind the firewall or in DMZ, and only those agent machine will contact the password manager server or the server in which you have your critical information. Okay, so it's basically a client server architecture what I'm explaining you. So from the server, you're not going to have any firewall ports open to the client. Only the client will communicate to the server machine. So in this case, I'm speaking about the agents which is available in our product. Okay, and the next one is once again when you go ahead, you should basically what you need to do is you need to provide a administrator account for any password reset or mechanism, or if it is a Linux or any Unix based machine, you have to provide a privileged root account in order for the password reset to execute it. However, uh, uh, when you go deploy these agents, because of the critical server, once again storing the administrative privilege is going to be a problem. A root account privilege is going to be a problem. So everything should happen only with the agents. Okay, so that is going to be used to reset the passwords of the target machine. And once again, these agents alone, only the agents should speak to the server, and the server should not speak to the agent machine. But we need to ensure all the passwords are reset on demand and periodically based on the requirements to meet the compliance of your organization, right? So the ultimate aim is, even though the servers are behind the firewall or in DMZ, you should still be able to manage and reset the local admin passwords or the root account passwords of Windows and Linux, right? And the same way, uh, we do have few organizations who have their domain behind the firewall. In other words, they will have their domain controller behind the firewall. And if you want to go ahead and manage all your domain stuff, you need to have a privileged domain account. However, having this privileged domain account will once again be a problem, a security measure. So managing the passwords of the privileged domain account is also going to be a problem, right? So these are the basic these are the challenges once again, and or these are the use cases which you might have, right? So now let me explain you how these problems can be solved, especially for all the servers or the domain controllers which are behind the firewall. Let me quickly jump into our product. Okay, so uh, uh, in Password Manager Pro, for managing the passwords which are in the demilitarized zone or which are behind the firewall, we have something called agents. Okay, so agents are basically, you can download the agents by going to admin tab. We have provided Windows Domain, and Linux. So the difference between these three is Windows is for managing all the local account passwords. Okay, of either the member service or the workstations, but ensure, these. They should be behind the firewall. So that's the only thing. So you should be knowing Password Manager Pro can very well manage the passwords, which for which you have the connectivity. Okay, so here I'm speaking only to the servers which are in an isolated network. Okay, so in that case, if you want to manage the local admin or the local user accounts of a Windows server, either a member server or a workstation, you can go for the Windows agent. And the next one is going to be the Windows Domain Agent, which is dedicated for managing the domain accounts. Okay, when I say domain accounts, anything which is present in your Active Directory, starting from a user, domain admin, service account, everything you can manage with by deploying the Windows Domain Agent. And the Linux agent is once again to manage the local accounts present on any Unix platform. Okay, so now this is the agent, and you can simply download the agent from here, and you can install it on the target machine. So there will be also a unique agent key, where we will provide a time frame for which the agent can be active, or this key can be active. So when you go ahead and deploy the agent, you have to also supply this key, and if in case the key gets deactivated, you have to regenerate the key and you have to do it. So basically, regenerating is nothing but you have to click on the download button and you have to go ahead with a new key to deploy the agent. Okay, and you can change this time frame whenever you want. Right, so now you have downloaded the agent and you have installed it. Once the agent is installed, the agent server alone will communicate with the password manager. The password manager will never speak to the agent machine. So agent will poll the password manager server every 60 seconds and check, hi, have I got any job for me? And it, based on the server's response, it will go ahead and proceed with the job which is waiting. Basically, when I say job, it's going to be the password reset and the verification, right? So these are the simple jobs, and as I told you, it's going to be for 60 seconds. It's the time interval when this action will be polled. When the agent will poll the server machine, or in other words, the server in which the Password Manager Pro is installed. Okay, so and for example, I logged in here using an account called admin. So when I download and install this agent on any machine, it will be all the resources. So the agent has the capability. So when you deploy the Windows or the Linux agent, apart from adding that resource inside Password Manager Pro. So when you deploy the agents, it will automatically add the resource like this, and then it will also populate all the user accounts and the passwords which are being present in that particular machine. All right, so all those will be auto populated the same way. For even Linux, it will do it. The only thing is, for Windows domain, we will not do it. The reason behind it, because your Active Directory might have lots and lots of objects. So if you go ahead and if you try to discover everything from the Active Directory, then that's okay, once again going to be a problem to manage the accounts, right? So for our Windows domain agents alone, we will just import your domain controller details inside this tool, after which you can add your accounts, the domain accounts which you want to manage using Password Manager Pro one by one manually. Okay, so this is the agent mechanism, and once the agent is being deployed, you can simply go ahead and change the password from this tool, and you can just click on save. It will go ahead and it will trigger the password reset from this tool, and once the password reset is being triggered, you will get the status of whether the password is being fine or not over here. Okay, so that is the idea behind it. And the same way, the agent, if you trigger a verification, the agent will just pull the server, check whether any verification job is pending, and if it is pending, it will try to verify the credentials and update the status. So you can get the status on this bell icon, or will also get it in the audit. Okay, so if you go to audit, you will see what is the status of the verification result. Okay, so this is about the agents, and I hope it was clear. And as I mentioned you in the beginning, these are for the servers which are, I mean, the servers and the devices, whatever you have, which are in the isolated network or which are behind the firewall. That's the main purpose of this. And yeah, so that's it about the agents. And the next topic which we are going to discuss is about automatic login to the target machines or target systems, right? So again, here I was explaining you the jump host concept, right? um, we do have a few of our customers using the password manager pro application server as a jump host. Okay, in other words, if you want to take RDP or SSH session, okay, what they will restrict it only from our machine. So any connection which needs to be taken to the target machine, either let it be a RDP, SSH, or telnet, that will be all restricted. Firewall rules will be created, and only from the password manager server they will be allowed. Okay, so here our server will act like a jump host. So let me explain in detail about this. Okay, so of taking the RDP and SSH sessions, how it works, I hope if you have joined the previous webinars, you should have a better idea about it. So I'm not going to touch base of that. Instead, let me explain how this use case can be resolved. Okay, so here, if you see, what I do is just go to one of these accounts. I click on open connection and I click on Windows Remote Desktop. So automatically a browser session gets launched and I'm able to take an RDP of a session. So what happens in the background? It's pretty simple. From my machine, right, a web-based, right, a browser-based connection is launched to the password manager pro server using the port 7273, and from the password manager server an RDP session will be launched to the actual target using the port 3389. So here my password manager server acts like a jump host, right? So that's the idea. The same way, if I try to go ahead and launch one of the SSH sessions, right, from here, I click on SSH. A session will be connected, I mean, a browser-based session will be launched from my local laptop or PC to the password manager server using the port 7273. And then inside that port, we are going to have a SSH or a telnet session, or the telnet port, SSH or the telnet port 22 or 23 to the target machine. And that's how this works. So here we can have a connection. I mean, as I mentioned to you, this way Password Manager Pro will help you acting like a jump post. And what you can do is you can create a firewall rule on all your mission critical servers stating allow connection only if they are coming from the Password Manager Pro application, else don't allow it. Okay, so yeah, I think this is pretty clear on how it can automate the login to the target machines, right? Especially and how it will act like a jump server. And now the third one, okay, the last use case what I'm going to speak today is, um, uh, let me take the same example where I have a mission which is going to be in the APAC, India or Singapore, and I have the critical server in Belgium, but I cannot take a direct connection from my India server to the Belgium. Instead, I have to connect to an intermediate hop, which is in London. So from India to London and from London to Belgium. That's how my connection can be launched. And for doing this, I have to first take a session to the London server. I have to supply all my credentials. And once the connection is successful, and again I have to launch another SSH connection from that machine to my target box. So this is going to be a real critical activity. Am I right? So in Password Manager Pro, this complete option connecting to the jump host can be automated. Okay, so we have something called the landing server here. Let me explain you that. So in you have to add both your servers, the one in the London, the other one in the Belgium. So you will add both of them as a resource. Once they are added, you will come to the admin tab and you will click on landing server. Okay, so this is the landing server and we currently support this for SSH and Telnet. So here you can create a landing server, you can give a name, and you can tell which is going to be your landing server. In other words, the jump host. Okay, so I'm just clicking on save. Now, when I try connecting to one of these accounts, okay, so I'm just trying to connect to the Spins and OS, you can see it will directly connect here. Okay, so this is a normal SSH connection. If I try to connect to this machine, it directly connects me. However, I will just leave this and I will try to take a SSH connection here. This will be very quick. You can see the first connection is to CentOS 7 and then it connects to the actual target, which is going to be C501. Let me just show you that again. It will be real quick, but I just want you guys to go have a look into it once again. So here you can see connected to PMP and authenticated, then again it connects to PMP-C501. So that the first connection is for to the jump host, and from there we are connecting to the target machine. So this is about it. All right. So I believe that I've covered all the important features of this web masterclass. Okay, and I hope I also explained you the use cases which this masterclass will help you with. Okay, and this brings to my final mandatory slide, the question slide. So feel free to shoot your questions and I will answer them. All right, I don't have any questions raised, so thank you for joining this masterclass. And if you, in case you have any questions, you can just send it to support@passwordmanagerprover.com, and we will be glad to answer them for you guys. Okay, and I hope the entire session was useful for everyone and gave you some insights on how to securely manage the devices and servers in remote isolated networks. Okay. Once again, thank you for joining today's session. Have a great day ahead. Bye.